So we've got a square. Let's make a cube. All right, we don't need most of this stuff anymore. Okay, so see, you can, now I got rid of most of the gobbledygook. And, honestly, all those lines, lines, were just a way of finding, different points along the square here. So really, if you were doing this on your own, either you could draw really light, or you could just not even draw the line at all. You could just be like, oh, okay, here's a point, here's a point, here's the middle, so here's a point on the edge, all that stuff. You wouldn't need hardly any of those lines, and it would make probably a lot less confusing. So anyways, we've got our two squares here, right? We've got our original 1-point perspective, and this one that we've got going off to this vanishing point here, and off to God knows where over here on the right. Okay, so let's make a cube out of this one right here. That's easy enough to do. I just have to decide wherever my leading edge is, in other words, the edge that's most out front, I'll just say, well, how tall am I going to make this? So let's say that I'm going to make it that tall. Okay, cool. I'm going to make a cube out of this one now of the same height. And making a cube in the 1-point perspective is like super duper easy, right? Because I've already got my one vanishing point. Making a cube out of this one would be difficult just on its own because we'd get enough for one side, but then we wouldn't know exactly where any of the other sides were. But so we can do it like this. All right, so I've got my square that was on the bottom. Okay, and I can just run that back to the vanishing point back here. Just good old 1-point perspective. Okay, so here and here, and I can just draw that straight up and draw that straight up. Okay, and you'll see, we're about done with all the tough stuff. Okay, so there is a big, broad, flat cube. Hopefully you can see that. That's dark enough for you to see, right? Okay, well now this is easy. Now all I have to do is draw this straight up, draw this straight up, and draw this straight up. And there it is. I've just got my points. And you'll see that this is going to line up. You see, so if I line this up to the vanishing point, and I've drawn fairly straight, then, boom, there it is. Okay, if I line this one up to the vanishing point, and I've drawn fairly straight, then, boom. And you'll see that it's connected with this one. In other words, everything is lining up. And these ones that go off this way, who knows? Who cares? Because we know that everything is working. It all lines up. And so we've got our cube that is at an angle. Let me clean up some of the lines we don't need. Okay, and hopefully you can see that pretty well now, how we were able to make a nice cube in perspective that we're missing one of the vanishing points that's off here somewhere, who knows. So we've turned that in space, and it looks pretty darn natural, I would imagine, to you. Well, for this right here, I just wanted to turn things in different directions. So we've got the book that is in 1-point perspective. We've got this one that I've turned into space off somewhere else. And we've got one that's just at a right angle. This one's the same right angle as, like, let's say this house is. So this one's an easy one. We can just use the vanishing points that we've got here and here. All right, so let's say I can put the edge of this thing anywhere. So let's say I put it right here. And I can just draw back to my vanishing point here. Zoom, right? I could draw back to my vanishing point here. All right. And so then, of course, I can go from here to the vanishing point. And I can go back here to the vanishing point. Here, we'll put it right here. Okay. Here, let me erase some of the lines I know I won't need. Okay, and so then I've got a corner of the book here. I've got a corner of a book over here. So I'll just go from here back to the vanishing point, and from here back to the vanishing point. There you go. So I've got this one is turning in space pretty good. And I've got this one that's turning in space pretty good. And for here, we don't know where the bottom is, so I'll do a cheat. I'll just draw straight down. And that'll give me my bottom book right there. Okay, I don't need this. And I don't need this. Okay. So hopefully you can see now how I got this one, 1-point perspective. This one, turning in space with only 1 point that we can see and another one off in the distance. And this one, which was just a 2-point perspective. Okay, pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. And then, from there, I could decide very arbitrarily, well, I want this book to be skinnier, let's say. Well, that's easy enough. I could just go off to my vanishing point here. Boom. Maybe I want this one to be a little bit longer, so I could just continue that line out here and here. And then just go back to my vanishing point, you see, which I've got over here. And boom, I could make a slightly bigger book, let's say, whatever. And then this one, of course, you can adjust any way you wanted. Heck, you could make it any way you wanted because you've got both vanishing points right there. Cool, right? Okay. So then the only other thing I did was that, we've got this horizon line that's just, taking us off into infinity there, is I decided to kind of incorporate it into my picture here. So I think my vanishing point's right about here, I believe, on that one. And my horizon line's here. So I made it as if we were kind of looking out a window. And I just used some nice atmospheric perspective to create darker here and my little vanishing hills off in the distance here, a little river right here. And, I've just framed up a couple of windows. So nothing really special. The big takeaway was the structure. Everything else is pretty much what we've done before. As far as shading goes, I just decided that I'll just have my light coming in slightly from this way. And so I just added a little bit of shadows here, little shadows underneath the books here, little shadows underneath sort of like the outlines of the books. And, making the books themselves. How easy was that to turn a cube into a book? Just, rounding that corner a little bit, making a little dip. Hopefully you guys see books, right? To make hard corner books, just like so. There wasn't really anything to that, was there? There, boom, I just made it a book. And about the only other thing is that hopefully you're taking the time each time you do one of these drawings to experiment a little bit with your shading techniques. This one uses the eraser a lot to get some of the different wood grains, to get some of the different sheens on here, a little sheen on the book, that kind of stuff. I shaded in here, making my different textures, just all that good stuff. Hopefully, as you're making these, you're making real complete drawings as well as just these little perspective puzzles. I find the perspective puzzles to be kind of interesting, but remember, it's a means to an end, not an end in itself. So let's call it perspective drawing, and this will be number 9. Okay, and what did we do with this? We had vanishing points that we're off the page and turning things in space. Okay, and of course, go ahead and put your name down here. So your last name, here's mine's Kuhn. And your first name would be Robert. That's my first name. Whatever your first name is. Okay, this is the period, whatever period happens to be. And this is exercise 9. Okay, cool. Now we're really done.